Good early afternoon, and welcome to the Blue Plate Special. I'm Andy Andrews. You have joined us here at Wisdom Harbor Studios in Orange Beach, Alabama, here at the wharf where we have the unbelievable escalator statues. So if you visit us, please get your picture taken on the escalator statues. Okay, man, it has been a strange 24 hours, and we got a lot of talking to do, okay, I think, if you want to. If you're new to us on Facebook, and you don't hate me right now, click that notification button there, and I'm still going through a lot of mail here, and so I'm just about there. So, wow. Well, if you're new to us and you would like to, we'd love for you to click that notification button on Facebook and be notified whenever we go live. You'll have to also click on to the notifications on your phone. Okay, Marcia Taylor, hey, from Washington State. Sherry Cummings, Sandra from Seuss, Arkansas, where Hardin University killed their mascot. Heather Olson, ready, set, go. Yep, I think. Dave from Minnesota. Patricia Clapp, Ron Reams, hey buddy, how are you? Linda, and just a bunch of buddies here. Also, if you are on YouTube, please click that subscription button. That really helps us a lot. And if you would also share the page, if you dare today, to share the page to your page. So Renee Dixon, hey, thank you. Where can you get more information on the the elevator statues? You just need to come see them. I'm wearing my One Water Marine shirt today. I'm very proud of these guys. This is Team Legendary Marine. These are my guys here in the area, the guys over there in Destin, and just several. These guys are my buddies. One Water Marine. So if you need a boat and you want to be treated right, this is where to go. Okay, so let's just get started. Let me say this. Today is the first day. This just kills me on this weird day that today is the first day that I have stumbled and been unable to make a trade. So, we're doing these trades for charity, and we've selected the charity. It's Youth Reach Gulf Coast. You can go online and look at Youth Reach Gulf Coast and see as we're trading up, we started with a safety pin the 1st of January, and we're trading up. And at the end of the year, whatever it is, we're going to auction it off and give the money to Youth Reach Gulf Coast. They don't get any federal money, and so we're going to help there, hopefully. But right now, we've got an 85-inch smart TV that is voice-controlled, still in the box, a Sony 85-inch, and I gotta have somebody that wants to trade something, because I don't want to come to you Thursday and say we can't do it. I have an idea that we're going to be talking about this again Thursday, this subject matter, but I want to give it a time for you, and I think we're going to do it 2 times. We'll do it, today and Thursday, to talk over this particular issue. Now, we'll talk over other things, obviously, but let's get started today, okay? So, yesterday, I think it was about this time. Hey, Bob Woodall, Bonnie Cates, just so many of you guys. Dave, I'm glad you're all here. Yesterday, about this time, I posted a poem that I had written. When did I write that, Matt? It's like Wednesday morning, I think.
Yep.
And so I posted that and, messed around with it a little bit. And then we said, well, let's record it. And so then we had a brilliant person here in the staff, Little M, who is there. Matt produced the whole video, and then Little M made the original art that was in that kind of Seussian style. But the whole thing was based on the 6 titles that Penguin Random House is no longer publishing, and all the stuff surrounding it, okay? Because also surrounding that is, a ban from eBay of them not using the book. And who's at Puerto Vallarta? Oh, you're in Puerto Vallarta. Shelly Hess, hey, you're in Puerto Vallarta. Oh, we have a restaurant around here called Puerto Vallarta. This is Mexican food, but you're not at the restaurant. You're in the city. Hey, Cindy Westfall, how are you doing? I'm so glad you're here. Man, we were all so sorry to hear about Paul. Paul, I talked to several people about Paul when he passed, and our prayers are with you. Paul Westfall was just an awesome man whose legacy will continue on for a long time. Hey, Jimmy Geary. Okay, I'm going to stop saying hey to everybody for a minute, except for Tricia Humphreys listening in Virginia. But I want to say that I put this thing out, and you can go online and see it. I'm not pulling it off, but I got a mixed response. Now I just got to tell you, it makes me a little nervous because I'm not used to people being mad at me. I mean, I'll just tell you how it is. I usually try to do everything I can to bend over backwards to keep people from being mad at me. But I thought, that's certainly true of people that I love the most, that I bend over backward to keep them from being mad at me. But that doesn't exclude discussion and what my opinion is, or what I believe to be the truth, okay? And so I've gotten a bunch of letters, a bunch of comments. I've got a lot of, I will never buy any of your books again and stuff like that. And so I put a message out yesterday that we were going to do this today. If I can find it in all this. Yeah, here it is. I put this, everybody that emailed me got a version of this. I mean, I said, dear, and then their name, but I wrote this. And here's what I said. I said, thank you for your email. I have been and still am thinking deeply about all that revolves around this subject. It was not and never will be my intention to hurt or disappoint you. It is, however, both our jobs, you and me, to talk through this. I've always believed we owe that to our children. And so then I said, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about it and on the Blue Plate Special. So here we are. I would like to read some of the good and bad comments and I really, there are several people I just have to say that I really, really appreciate. Now, for the most part, I'm not going to say anybody's name. There's no reason to make anybody mad-er, I guess. But I do want to say that there are several people whose comments I really appreciated. I'm not saying that they agreed with me, I'm just saying I appreciated their comments, and I'll find one of them in just a second. Okay. We got a lot of them. Well, I'm sure I will find it somewhere along the line. But here's my point, is that some of the people that disagreed with me told me why and made their case. And a couple of them, I agree with their point. They go, oh, yeah, okay, well, that is something I need to think about. Now, what the poem was about may have been a little more than what people saw, because I had a lot of people that said that here's one: racism is wrong. Defending it is wrong. I do not have to have a conversation. This is what I got back for the thank for your email. Racism is wrong. Defending it is wrong. I do not need to have a conversation to know that. Best of luck. I will pray that Jesus will speak to your heart and open it to remove the judgment and bias you have against marginalized folks. I agree. Racism is wrong. By the way, if you're listening, I know you probably recognize your words. I don't know if you are. I would urge you to read this book. This is Up From Slavery. When Good Morning America listed the 5 books you should read in your lifetime, it's like To Kill a Mockingbird, As a Man Thinketh. Well, this was one of the 5, Up From Slavery. And it was the only one of the 5 that I had not read. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to get that. Because George Washington Carver is one of my 2 greatest heroes. Joshua Chamberlain and George Washington Carver, 2 greatest heroes from history. And I knew that George Washington Carver was hired by Booker T. Washington and worked with him there in Tuskegee for a long time. Bob Woodall, I saw you on there. You got the Carver Museum there in Dothan, Alabama. And so I thought, wow, I've never, I hadn't read this, and I need to read it. So I got it, I read it, and I was frankly blown away. But I haven't met many people who have read it. But I will say this, that if I wrote this book today and put my name on it, I mean, if I just copied the words and put my name on it, somebody would probably kill me. This, by the way, just while we're talking about because the poem was not about racism, okay? And I am certainly not defending racism. This is up in my office, and this is also up in my studio here for everybody to see, because this is Mrs. McLeod. She's my favorite teacher of all time. And she is the one, I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for Ms. McLeod, because she was the first one to encourage me to write and to be funny. But this is Mrs. McLeod. I was a honorary pallbearer at her funeral. So we're not talking about racism. Remove me from this list. Very disappointing. Have you seen these images? Why were they not included in your article? A very disappointed former fan. For all the things you've written and done, I can't for the life of me figure out why you would do this. I got something I want to say, but I just want to give you some of this. Really? His family opted to stop publishing some old books. This was not a government action. You could have done better than this. Actually, first of all, I couldn't have done better than that. That was the best I could do. I worked hard at it. And it was the best poem I could write. I'm not a poet, but it was the best I could do. This was not a government action. You're absolutely right. And if you'll watch it again, you'll see that I never said it was a government action. I never said that. I'm going to tell you what the poem was about in a minute, if you're not sure. And look, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck here. I want to talk to you, and I want you to talk to me, but I want to tell you why. But I'm just laying some of these things out first. It was Gail Lancaster King who wrote. She wrote a dissenting comment, and I appreciated the way she did it. Okay, because we're talking, right? We're talking, and this is something that's missing. A statement that Horton and the Lorax are next is nothing short of saying that minorities just need to let it go when they're depicted in stereotypical ways, that their concerns have no more value than those of animals and non-existent creatures. Okay. What would Jesus do? Very disappointed in this video. I'll think twice before purchasing any of your books in the future. If you honestly believe it's common sense that ignorant, harmful representations of actual humans can be retained, I don't know anything I can say to you that make a difference. I found your message disappointing and divisive. If you don't understand why this matters, please listen harder. I'm listening. His family, who owns the publishing rights, decided not to go ahead with any new publishing of 6 books out of dozen. It hardly fits the definition of erasing. You're trying to twist this. There were a lot of people who wrote and said, the family decided to do this. Actually, no, the family did not decide to do this. The family had nothing to do with the decision because the family doesn't even own Seuss Enterprises anymore. Audrey Seuss, who was Theodore Geisel's wife, founded Seuss Enterprises in 1993. It's now run by a woman named Susan Brandt, who's the president of the company. But the publisher is Penguin Random House. Now, Audrey and Dr. Seuss died never having had children. And so this is, the Seuss Enterprises is not owned by or run by the family. And Penguin Random House is the culture. Is the publisher. So just to clear that up, if you wonder, these books are very racist, poorly done, Mr. Andrews. Did not expect such nonsense and misinformation from you. Rhyming and including your wife did not improve your false message. Here's another one. It's incredibly disappointing from you. Have you taken the time to understand why the foundation chose to stop publishing those 6 books? From this distasteful video, I'm going to guess no. Yeah, I have taken the time to understand why they decided to stop publishing those books. Here's an interesting one. Dr. Seuss for decades has promoted respect for each other. His drawings were not intended to be derogatory, just as caricatures emphasize prominent features. These were based on some factual lifestyles and obvious differences, yet not in any way emphasized in a derogatory way. Anyone can find something wrong with someone if determined to do so. If the reader takes images out of context, then the mentor should explain a more positive perspective. Otherwise, I'm not aware of any literature that could be read beyond the present culture during which written without the necessity of censorship, if that's what you want to do. If censorship begins with books based on the premise of celebrating acceptance of differences, then quickly the list grows to books to ban. Here is something that is, well, I'll hold on to that for a minute. Just a couple more. Leave your opinion to yourself. I'm very sad you still, this is important, I think. I'm very sad you still see them and us. You are part of the problem causing a divided country. Dr. Seuss's organization chose to remove the stories that were no longer appropriate for today's society. The government didn't do it. The company made that choice. There were some dated images and some that were harmful. A China man eating with chopsticks. It goes on, and it says it's time to get rid of stereotypes, begin to recognize them that are us, the United States. I'm sadly disappointed in this writing, Andy. I hope someday you will see the right ways and the wrong ways of what has happened in the United States. God said, love thy neighbor. I think he meant even the ones that moved in down the block that might be a bit different than your privileged white male status. I'm saddened to see Andy Andrews, this is the last one I'll read for now, someone that I have greatly respected for so many years and have given away literally hundreds of your books, not understand the wrong that the Seuss family has come to see as inappropriate. Why is it always white people that are offended when racial stereotypes and injustice is remedied? We would not tolerate these images if the tables were turned, but then we rarely ever need to. I don't see any black and brown and Asian people saying, oh no, it's okay to continue to portray us like that. What if your children were still young and happened to be black or Asian and saw themselves and their people being ridiculed like that? The family and the company, again, it was not the family, chose not to continue to publish 6 books out of the many dozens he created. If he were alive today, he would likely have already rewritten and da-da-da-da-da. So sad. Okay, without getting too deep into that, I was just going to say that actually, I do talk to a lot of black and brown people who think this is wrong. I got a long letter from one yesterday who looked at the thing that got McGilligot's Pool banned, which that was a particular favorite of mine growing up. I loved McGilligot's Pool, and that it was the Chinese people. It was the Chinese boy eating with sticks. That, and you've probably seen the thing, but that's what got that banned. And so my Asian friend said, well, what is the deal? This is like we do eat with sticks, and it's a caricature. If you look at Dr. Seuss's fish, they didn't really look like fish either, right? It's a caricature. Somebody draws a caricature of me, it has a huge nose. And you know what? I think we ought to laugh about it a little bit, all right? See, here's what the thing is about. What the whole thing is about is censorship. It's not about racism. It's not. There are a relatively loud few, and I say few, and I say loud, because there are people who are louder because they don't know how to have a conversation. Okay, there are rarely things that don't have some edges of gray until we kind of figure out where we're going. Now, here's what I want to tell you. If you have really disagreed with me and you're really listening to this, I want to say to you that I'm not saying, first of all, this wasn't about racism. You know, it wasn't at all. It was about censorship, and I want to explain that in just a minute. But it was not about racism. And I want to say to you that whatever the disagreement is about, I don't know everything. I'll tell you, just like I told my boys growing up, we are after, what do you and I agree on? We agree that we want the best for our children. We want the best for our country. We may vote differently. We may worship differently or not at all. We may be different colors. We may be different whatever. But one thing we do have in common is we want the best for our children. Okay, well, the best, that's one thing. Whatever the best is, I'm not claiming to know it, but I'm saying the best is one thing. We're not talking about among the best or some of the best or the best of all time or the best of the decade. We're talking about the best. It's like the truth. To find the best, you have to find the truth, because you can find the truth and never accomplish the best, but you will never, ever accomplish the best without knowing the truth. So one thing I've always told my boys, when they were growing up, I said, look, Polly and I would say, it is fine that you disagree with us. If you disagree with us, we kind of expect that to happen as you're growing up. We expect you to disagree with us. And understand that we are not right about everything. We don't know everything. Okay? And so it's fine to disagree, but we're not going to yell, okay? And we're not going to call names, but we are going to talk until you convince me or I convince you, because that will be a kind of likely a stair-step thing. We're both going to learn some stuff as we talk, and these talks may need to go on for a while. But this is what our society should be about. I would like to find the first architect that removed front porches from houses and beat him up, okay? Because at some point, a lot of us grew up sitting on the floor in the dining room, listening to our parents talk to people at dinner that we knew they disagreed with. And we grew up watching our parents on front porches, greeting people that walked by the front step, and they'd stop and talk. And as kids, we knew they disagreed with each other, but they were really nice to each other. And so whoever the first architect is that removed those front porches, and everybody kind of went to the backyard, built the patio in the backyard, the deck in the backyard, and then put a privacy fence around it so that now you can only invite the people you want, and you don't have to talk to anybody else. You don't have to learn how to be nice. You don't have to learn how to fashion stories to, you just learn to surround yourself with people who think like you. Okay. But what I sincerely believe, I don't really believe that, the divided country, that I'm an example of our divided country, because I don't say Republican or Democrat. I don't talk about liberal or conservative. I'm after the truth. I'm after the best. Do I know it all? No, I don't. Okay. But I want to find it, and people say we wonder what the cause of this division is. There is. I think we can get after that on Thursday, but I want to explain something about censorship to you, because we've all heard a lot about this. Okay, and it is pretty much an idea that kind of people either, whatever. People just don't think deeply about censorship, and they don't think deeply about history. Yesterday, somebody sent some pictures that Dr. Seuss had done years ago, and they were very offensive, and I mean, did I like them? No, I didn't like them. Would I show them to anybody? No. Would I publish them? Would I spread them? No. Because they were racist and they were insensitive. Okay, but somebody sent them and they said, this is why these 6 books have been taken off. Now, actually, the pictures that they sent, only one of those was a representation from the books, and it was the Chinese boy eating his rice with sticks. The rest of those were done like back in the 20s, and they were horrible, okay? But one of the things that I want us to understand is that first of all, the guy was like getting after me for doing this, and yet, those are no longer being published, right? Those pictures are no longer being published. And yet, he became the publisher of those pictures because he put them out there for a pretty large audience of people to see that would never have seen them. But he published them. Now, they're horrible. Should they be censored? No. You know why? Have you heard that history has a way of repeating itself? Okay, listen to me carefully here. Censorship has followed the free expressions of men and women like a shadow throughout history. In ancient societies like China, for example, censorship was considered a legitimate instrument for regulating the life of the population. Now, the origin of this term, censorship, is censor. It can be traced to the office of the censor that was established in Rome in 443 BC. And so, perhaps the most famous case of censorship in ancient times is Socrates. All right, he was sentenced to drink poison in 399 BC because of his religious beliefs. Okay, now it's probably fair to assume that Socrates was not the first person to be severely punished for saying something that was offensive to somebody else. But this ancient view of censorship, that censorship is in the best interest of the public, is still upheld in many countries like China. Perhaps, I think history's most extensive censorship, at least during the 20th century, was put in place by the Soviet Union, who murdered 61,911,000 people. Now look, that's the number that is shown by their records, their own records, that between 1917 and 1987, but only 54,767,000 of the men, women, and children put to death were officially Soviet citizens. This is their own people. How does this ever happen? I mean, how does the 11 million people thing happen? So in America, think about this. So in America, once upon a time, we could say that the law forbids whatever it does not permit. Somewhere along the line, it came to be accepted that a person can do whatever is not forbidden by law. Now it seems we've come to a point that the same people who were so determined to assert that they could do and say whatever they wanted, now they pressure corporations and our government to restrict those same rights for someone who thinks or believes differently. So the same people who asserted their right to freedom of speech because it was protected by the First Amendment now assert that others do not have that right. Now, I don't know if you remember this, and I just if your kids are listening to this, just hold your hands over their ears right now. But I remember, and I'm sure you can remember or look it up if you want to, but there was a piece of art that came out that was just famously, it was just protected by free speech. And the name of it was Piss Christ. And it was the crucifix photographed in a bottle, in a glass of urine. And it was protected, free speech, because, and so the people who were really, really pushing the free speech at that point are the same people now that do not want it, because I want to just tell you something. That was pretty offensive to me. It's still pretty offensive to me. And it's still out there. But I'll tell you this. I felt at the time like that should not be allowed. At the time, I felt like it should not be allowed. Now, as horrific as it is to me, and as offensive as that is to me, I do not believe that should be censored. And here's why. In world history, when you study the circumstances of people actually governing themselves, it becomes apparent that freedom of speech and freedom of the press is the most major critical part of that process of governing themselves, because that freedom permits informed access to information and differing opinions. Even dictatorships have always recognized this. It's obvious that they understand the value of real, accurate information and differing opinion. Dictators understand the value of this because the leaders of any regime make certain that they themselves are informed about what is really going on in their country and around the world. Now, their own people are not allowed access to the truth or to opening discussions about the possibilities, about what may be the truth, because if they were allowed to do that, the power would ultimately shift back into the hands of the people. See, censorship is never an immediate grab. It occurs within a society very gradually. Consider this step that has been taken, okay? What once would have been referred to as freedom of speech and freedom of the press, which is how it's written in the Constitution, now that is often referred to as freedom of expression, which covers a lot of stuff. Now, we talked a minute ago, I mentioned a minute ago about history repeating itself. You know, here's what history shows. No democracy can survive censorship. If there is censorship, voters cannot make decisions based on truth. They can only make decisions based on whatever passes through the filter of censorship. Therefore, if a democracy exists, but censorship in any form somehow emerges into the population, democracy dies, and totalitarianism or what we call a dictatorship is inevitably the result. Again, this is because when censorship is applied, it blocks essential truths that some people don't want others to know, and it blocks them from reaching the public. All right, now hang on here just a second. So, you know how we talk about history repeating itself? Okay, why would you think that is? Why would you think we would do the same stupid things over and over again throughout history? Why would you think that we would know something and then just get stupid again and do it again? Why would that happen? See, there's a saying, it's a financial saying, and it's a saying that goes, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. And what that means is that, here's the grandparents, and they struggled and they dug and they worked and they built this business and they built this wealth. And then they passed it to their children. Well, their children saw that struggle. They saw how that struggle happened. They understood the work involved. And so while they weren't really willing to work that hard, they did understand it and they managed to keep that. Okay. But the 3rd generation that got it, they never saw the work. They just kind of grew up with a lot of money and they didn't really understand anything about it. And so here they are. Now they're poor again. They blew all the money. Shirt sleeves in 3 generations. What that is a lack of understanding, a lack of wisdom. And so what happens in history is if we remove everything that is offensive to somebody, then within a few generations, there will become more and more and more people that are like, this will start coming out again. Stuff will start coming out again. And nobody's around that has ever seen it or experienced it or, it's because it's not in history books. Don't put it in history. They don't teach it in history class. They don't say nothing about it. And so in several generations, it happens again because there's nobody there to say, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't draw stuff like that. We don't talk about people that way. This is not how we are. Nothing is as toxic to a democracy as censorship. Censorship actually prevents democracy. If a dictatorship already exists in a given place, it continues to exist by means of censorship. An authentic democracy has no censorship. This is why democracy is rare. And now get this. If anybody fails to understand that censorship is applied only in a totalitarian regime, then that person has bought into the most basic belief of totalitarianism. And that is the idea that censorship can be justified in some circumstances. Dictators always use that lie. It's the only way they can continue to exist as a dictator. There is no circumstance, I don't believe, which can justify censorship unless one believes that living in a dictatorship is a good thing. If you think that some censorship is good, then you've bought into that fundamental belief that has been used in every dictatorship in history. It's a lie, but in a dictatorship, that lie has fooled a majority of the people every time. I feel even weird saying this, but no writing or any art or any other statement should be censored, no matter how vile. Consider this. If it is vile, then it needs to be exposed, not hidden. Because if it's hidden, it'll breathe and grow in the dark until it's big enough to finally be thrown onto a public who has never been inoculated against it by the truth. And so in these cases, that false belief, by hiding it, some people allow this false belief to become seriously dangerous before it's ever unleashed. And it spreads like COVID, because it had been censored before it became public. The most deadly viruses grow in the darkness of anonymity before being released on a population that has no pre-existing protection against it. They haven't been inoculated. Finally, this. In this book, How Do You Kill 11 Million People? This is a book that I wrote. We identified how you do it. Now, again, if you're not familiar with the book, the question, how do you kill 11 million people, it refers to the Nazi regime, and we're not talking about like how did they physically do it. We all know that, or not how crazy you have to be to do something like that. We all have seen that. It's like, how do you get people to cooperate with you? I mean, you see the films that we've seen from that time. This always mystified me. You got people that are literally, there's thousands of people loading themselves onto trains. There's a Nazi guard here with a gun, 10 yards, a Nazi guard with a gun, 10 yards, and then thousands of people peacefully, loading themselves onto trains. How do you get people to do this month after month after month for several years? 11 million of them. How do you do that? Well, the answer, of course, if you've read the book, it's by lying. It's by lying. You just lie to them. And good, honest people don't expect to be lied to. And so good, honest people are a little more vulnerable to a lie than people who lie all the time. Now, curiously, this book has been repressed, if not outright banned, by certain powerful entities. I mean, there's one bookstore chain that will not carry it. There's, Fox News Network. I hadn't been on Fox News since the book came out, and I was in New York to do 5 different shows, and they called and canceled them all on the way to the studio. And we heard, well, we like Andy, but we can't do that book. Well, okay, all right. They didn't really like Andy a whole lot either, because I haven't been back. But that's okay. But one of the things that people ask is, okay, but what do we do about lies? How do we fight lies? Well, let me tell you something. The solution to the problem of lies is not censorship. It's banning censorship. You want to ban something, ban censorship. We want the light of day shined on things. I feel like that there are things that we can talk about to each other. I feel like we can learn from each other how to raise our children to not feel like our grandparents felt. Okay? I mean, I guess a couple of our proudest moments, Polly and I, a couple of our proudest moments was one day when it was Adam who came in and he was listening to some music and somebody said something. He said, "Wait, I want to ask you something. I heard this. You're telling me BB King is black?" we still every time we see BB King, but there was a time, PC, if you're watching this, when Nate came down to visit you for the summer. Nate is this beautiful little African American boy. He's like 3 years old. Austin's 3 years old, and so they're playing together all summer long. And we were curious, that Austin never said anything about Nate's color, which was almost the opposite of Austin's color. Never said a word, and which we just thought, that was great. It was fine, but we were kind of expecting to have to explain something, okay? And the next year, this is like a legendary story in our family. The next year, PC told us Nate's coming back down again for the summer, so we were excited to tell Austin, and we said, "Austin, guess who is coming for the summer?" He said, "Who?" We said, "Nate." He said, "Nate the purple boy." We can have generations that, you can't help but see there's a different color. But listen, the second greatest commandment that Jesus ever gave was love your neighbor, right? It says, love the Lord God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, who's our neighbor? Everybody. Including people that do things that we don't really like and don't agree with. They're our neighbors. I read that C.S. Lewis wrote, I read some of what he wrote one time, and I wish I could had this where I could read it to you. But he was talking about pride. And he said, it's the worst, that everything really horrible is much more than sexual sin, much more than larceny, much more. He listed a bunch of things. He said, pride. He said, that's the one God hates the most. Pride. And he said, actually, pride is how Satan became Satan. Pride. I want to leave you with an idea. When we look at somebody else who we feel like they are less than us, because of what they do, because of where they live, because of their color, because of their language, because of what they believe, when we look at them and we kind of, feel a little superior, that prejudice, that thing that comes out, this is what you think. You know what that is, right? That's pride. That's pride. That's I am better than that person. They're our neighbors. And while we may disagree, we can learn to disagree agreeably. Conversation is not over, you guys. I appreciate you staying around. We'll talk about this again a little more Thursday. And again, it's not my intention to disappoint you, okay? And I don't want to disappoint you, but we have to seek wisdom, you and I together. We have to seek it. I'm not there. I haven't met a person yet who that I think they're there. And this is the last thing I want to show you. We're after wisdom. I read this morning. King Solomon wrote this. It said, wisdom will make the hours of your day more profitable and the years of your life more fruitful. Wisdom is its own reward. And if you scorn wisdom, you hurt only yourself. I don't want anybody to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt. I'm not scorning wisdom. I want to listen. I want to learn. And we'll see you Thursday. And somebody, please trade me. Okay, we got to trade. Come on. Bye-bye.